So I thought I'd show you a few simple tricks about using various adhesives to glue together a simple joint like this, which is intended to go together like that. So if I take the first, which is PVA, it's pretty cheap to get hold of and doesn't have any major toxicity issues at all as it's water-based. If you apply a reasonable amount of glue in the joint there, you'll find that they go together quite easily, but the trouble is it takes a long time to dry, and so over time it often drifts. However, one of the ways you can get around this problem is by taking a little bit of masking tape. It's a good idea to pre-cut it into little strips so you're ready for it, and just use it to support it there and perhaps another one there. And indeed, if the structure is very complicated and you need to apply a little bit of pressure, you can even begin to assemble things like that with a little bit of tension to hold it together. And that means that it can dry maybe over a couple of hours and still be in a nice stable position. An alternative would be using contact adhesive. Again, a little bit more solvent in it. So if we apply it to what you'd call part A, and then we take our part B, now the intention with this glue is to let them dry for maybe 5-10 minutes and then push them together. Now what you often find is that if you're a little bit impatient, you can actually bring them together sooner than that, and by blowing on it and continually stretching it apart, you can see it beginning to get more and more sort of gummy. So by now it's really beginning to glue together quite nicely, and indeed it'll probably hold its own weight together, but just to be sure you could always put one bit of masking tape to hold it together safely and let it dry like that. Now finally, the one that I seem to be using a lot in the tutorials is hot melt glue gun. So again, nice and quick, put it inside the joint and bring it together while it's still hot. Now, one other tip is that if you actually get this wrong, you can actually use a hairdryer or indeed an industrial heat dryer, and you can heat this surface, pull it apart and then join it back together again. But that's usually something you'd want to try and avoid, as you tend to unstick the joints of neighbouring parts as well. But it's something you can do if you get into that situation. So there we go, and that's already dry.